Q broadcast, it's taking the world by storm. People are cutting the cord to their high cable bills and moving away from streaming services like Netflix, Hulu, and others for something better. Q broadcast. For just $60 a month, you'll get access to every channel you could ever want, including HBO, Cinemax, and Stars. And the best part, there are no contracts, no hidden fees, and you're free to cancel anytime. With Q Broadcast, you can enjoy streaming live TV, movies, and top series on up to 5 devices at once. Whether you're at home or on the go, Q Broadcast makes sure your entertainment is always at your fingertips. Imagine being able to watch all your favorite channels from anywhere, anytime, without any restrictions. We're talking about thousands of movies, hundreds of TV series, and a huge library of live channels, all in one place. And don't forget video on demand and pay-per-view events. Those are included at no extra cost, so you'll never miss a big event again. Now, take a second and think about your current cable bill. You're probably paying anywhere between $100 and $300 every month, locked into long-term contracts and hit with surprise rate increases. With Q Broadcast, that's a thing of the past. It's just $60 a month. No contracts, no extra fees, no hidden costs, and no price hikes. Why juggle multiple subscriptions like Netflix, Hulu, and cable when Q Broadcast gives you everything you need in one convenient package? People everywhere are switching to Q Broadcast, saving money and getting more content than ever before. So, what are you waiting for? Click the link in the description and sign up for Q Broadcast today. Just $60 a month, no contracts, no hidden fees. It's time to take control of your entertainment and start streaming smarter.
We live in a world where men are told it's harmless. It's just entertainment. Let's stop lying to ourselves. Pornography destroys. It weakens your spirit. It dulls your drive. And it robs you of what real intimacy is supposed to be. Every click is a step away from the man you're supposed to be. We can't call ourselves leaders if we are slaves to a screen.
As someone that is prior service, I know all about discipline. And discipline isn't out there, it's within your mind. Porn rewires your brain, weakens your will, wrecks all of your relationships. It doesn't just stay on a screen, it invades your marriage, your confidence, and your actual purpose. As men, if we don't learn to discipline ourselves, we'll be ruled by our impulses. Now, it is time to stand up and take control before this silent war takes more than you're willing to lose.
Real men don't hide in the shadows of shame. We step up and we protect what's ours. We fight for our wives and kids, our own hearts. Twitter isn't just an app, it's a weapon. It's a tool used to break free and start living like the man that you're meant to be. The battle's here and it starts with you. You can stop living in shame and you can break free today.
Of Q Broadcast, it's taking the world by storm. People are cutting the cord to their high cable bills and moving away from streaming services like Netflix, Hulu, and others for something better. Q Broadcast. For just $60 a month, you'll get access to every channel you could ever want, including HBO, Cinemax, and Stars. And the best part, there are no contracts, no hidden fees, and you're free to cancel anytime. With Q Broadcast, you can enjoy streaming live TV, movies, and top series on up to 5 devices at once. Whether you're at home or on the go, Q Broadcast makes sure your entertainment is always at your fingertips. Imagine being able to watch all your favorite channels from anywhere, anytime, without any restrictions. We're talking about thousands of movies, hundreds of TV series, and a huge library of live channels, all in one place. And don't forget video on demand and pay-per-view events. Those are included at no extra cost, so you'll never miss a big event again. Now, take a second and think about your current cable bill. You're probably paying anywhere between $100 and $300 every month, locked into long-term contracts and hit with surprise rate increases. With Q Broadcast, that's a thing of the past. It's just $60 a month. No contracts, no extra fees, no hidden costs, and no price hikes. Why juggle multiple subscriptions like Netflix, Hulu, and cable when Q Broadcast gives you everything you need in one convenient package? People everywhere are switching to Q Broadcast, saving money and getting more content than ever before. So, what are you waiting for? Click the link in the description and sign up for Q Broadcast today. Just $60 a month, no contracts, no hidden fees. It's time to take control of your entertainment and start streaming smarter.
We live in a world where men are told it's harmless. It's just entertainment. But let's stop lying to ourselves. Pornography destroys. It weakens your spirit. It dulls your drive. And it robs you of what real intimacy is supposed to be. Every click is a step away from the man you're supposed to be. We can't call ourselves leaders if we are slaves to a screen.
As someone that is prior service, I know all about discipline. And discipline isn't out there, it's within your mind. Porn rewires your brain, weakens your will, wrecks all of your relationships. It doesn't just.
Here at the Anomic Age, we know that these times of uncertainty are stressful. It is incumbent upon all of us to put our fears first and bow down to government tyranny. Gone are the days of freely leaving your home, working, and social interactions. In exchange for safety, we will trade liberty. At the Anomic Age, we understand. However, just in case you want to get off your knees and stop being a sniveling coward, check out the John Age Project at anomicage.com.
Meet Ann Morrissey, who is here with her daughter, Dareth. Dareth is 17 years old. Mrs. Morrissey, I don't have to tell you that most parents would be extremely depressed if their daughter came home one day looking like this. I assume that was your response shock, anger, depression? What was it?
I was extremely angry. I really went bananas.
Yeah, how old was she when this happened?
Possibly 13, 14 years old.
We're talking like it's a disease, isn't it?
Well,
Yeah. How did she explain it to you, Mrs. Morrissey?
there was very poor communication until we went into counseling. And it almost broke up our family. But through counseling and Serena, I can understand it better.
What do you understand?
That she feels like she doesn't want to be like everyone else, and she wants to be her own person. And through the dress code and her lifestyle, she's expressing this. It doesn't conform with our rules, but we're learning to cope, and it's a very, very difficult thing. Extremely difficult.
Dareth, let's let you talk for yourself. You're from Long Beach, California.
I just can't handle being like everybody else because that's what everybody else wants, you know. Just because somebody else does something does not mean that I have to do it. You know, I have my own morals and ideals, and I go by them.
Are you drug-free, Dareth?
Yes, I am.
Is this a political statement then? Do you have some misgiving about the society that you see?
Yeah, there's a lot of problems, you know. A lot of the people are really aware of what's going on, you know, and I don't like it, you know. There's a lot of problems. I don't like the way society is based.
What bothers you? Give us some of the misgivings you have.
The rich, the poor, the people starving, the wars, you know. Why can't, you know, everybody just get along and just live their life?
Here at the Anomic Age, we know that these times of uncertainty are stressful. It is incumbent upon all of us to put our fears first and bow down to government tyranny. Gone are the days of freely leaving your home, working, and social interactions. In exchange for safety, we will trade liberty. At the Anomic Age, we understand. However, just in case you want to get off your knees and stop being a sniveling coward, check out the John Age Project at anomicage.com.
Meet Ann Morrissey, who is here with her daughter, Deborah. Sal and Real and Chevy.
Propagating truth in a world of lies. You are listening to the John Age Project.
Trust no one. Trust no one. Trust no one.
You found it. You're here. You're headlong down the runaway train that is the Anomic Age, and I am your host, John Age. Hailing proudly from the coastal plains of the Old North State, I'll be your tour guide this evening as we take a somewhat satirical journey down the path of murder, destruction, mayhem, and the extermination of human life on this planet, a forced march into obsolescence thrust upon us by a global satanic death cult of pedophiles. Thanks for tuning in. Apologizing up front for the voice. It's on its way out and on its way in. You know, we'll see how it goes. We're going to ride it till the wheels fall off today anyway. We got a great guest coming up for you, but before we get into that, please check out anomicage.com. Please check out anomicage.com. All the there we go. That's the right one. Nope. That's the right one. Sorry, folks. I'm a little under the weather, so it's a little squirrely around here. But if you go to anomicage.com, you can find all things me. Please like all the likes, subscribe to all the subscriptions. PayPal.me/anomicage, Patreon.com/anomicage as well. Those are the best ways that you can find me, support me, and help the show to grow. So please check it out and consider doing that. You got the free iPhone app, free Android app, subscribe by email link, and so much more right there at anomicage.com. So we got to bring our guest in, but before that, we got to do a little bio on him. If you go to his page there, which I got on the screen for you right now, not that one. There we go. That one. SalAmato.com is where you can find all things Sal Amato. A lovely page there. But you can go to his homepage there and find the full bio for Mr. Sal Amato. But I'm just going to give you sort of the Cliff Notes version of it for today from anomicage.com. So, Sal Amato is an actor, writer, producer, and novelist whose career spans decades across film, television, music, and the evolution of the digital media, performing from an early age and becoming one of the youngest talents ever accepted into Second City. He built a foundation in acting, stand-up, hosting, and storytelling before moving into the frontier world of emerging technology, long before most people knew it even existed. Working online as early as 1988 and experimenting with internet-based video in the mid-90s, Amato became involved in pioneering concepts that helped shape the future of streaming media and digital communication. His work includes large-scale early live stream productions, online media platform development, and collaborations conducted to companies such as Hulu, Roku, during their formative years, blending creative storytelling and deep observation about power, perception, media influence, and human behavior. Amato now brings these themes together in his debut novel, Hidden Powers, Disclosure from Within, a geopolitical and psychological thriller that explores secrecy, engineered narratives, hidden systems of influence, and the struggle to discern truth in an age of manipulation. I love it. Thank you so much, Sal, for being with us, man. Thank you so much for the time.
Yeah, it's great to be on. Thank you.
Man, I love that last paragraph was it, man. That was it. That sums up the Anomic Age, and I love that your book brings that into the fold as well.
Yeah, there's always been a fight. I have a saying, nothing changes but time. We've been fighting and arguing and destroying each other for thousands of years, and we're still fighting them over the same things. It's because of the fanatical, rather than wanting to get to the truth, getting to the bottom. Who knows? I could be manipulated. That's why I'm not so sure of everything. You have to really dig deep and find out who's giving you the information, why are they giving you the information, what are they getting out of it? Because as I wrote in the book, you don't know who to trust. You really don't. And there's in the trailer, and there's a scene with Sarah. The Victoria Sterling is the woman who works for what is called the WPO, which is the World Peace Organization. And in the story, she builds the systems, the algorithms that manipulate everything that go on with the entire organization. She was really one of the architects of it. And the WPO is at a point where they can't tolerate us any longer doing what we want to do. So they're about to launch something that goes really against. She can't go with it anymore. She can't hang with that idea. So she's going to start divulging to Sarah Moore, who is an investigative journalist. Her father was killed. He was a government investigator. He was killed earlier, and you'll read. That's why Victoria went to Sarah, because Sarah already has a vested interest in what her father was doing. And I took a bunch of what ifs. What if this happened? What if that happened?
Mm-hmm.
What if that really happened? And it's imagination. You spin it together and you make a story. It doesn't mean it happened, but it's one heck of an interesting story if it did.
That's the truth. I mean, I think if nothing else over the last few years, everybody should have that same conclusion. You just can't trust anything or anyone anymore. I mean, every narrative that we all got taught in grade school and on up has been proven to be just BS. So you're kind of left with, well, now what? Like, what is real? What isn't real? Even the fake news tagline, I think that's a bunch of bunk too. Like, what the,
Everybody's just, look, people put out what they want to put out. There's people who are on one side for some reason. Everybody's supposed to be on the same side. Unfortunately, people look at it as a fan. And I always liken it here in Chicago. We've got two teams. You got the Sox, you got the Cubs. You ask a Cubs fan, why are you a Cubs fan? Well, because the Sox suck. Okay, well, why do the Sox suck? Because they suck. All right, but they had a better year than the Cubs this year. Well, they still suck. And then you ask a Sox fan, why are you a Sox fan? Well, because the Cubs suck. Well, why? Why do they? And me, I'm not afraid to admit I'm a fair weather fan. I like winners, so I don't care what part of the world they're in. I'm cheering for the Geelong, whatever they are out in Australia. I like winners, man. I'm not gonna spend my time worshiping a team that loses constantly. But yet, a lot of people, I get it. They want to root for their team, but this is your life. That's supposed to be a little different. It's not a sport. Your life's not supposed. You have to live your life, and we are under tremendous amounts of pressure every day. We live in a very. I always had to say, I thought, man, a guy who did 35 years in the joint, he comes out of jail today, he ain't even going to recognize the world. It's so accelerated.
Yeah.
And one group of people want to blame them, one other group of people, another group of people want to blame another group of people, and I don't know. You have to really, you like we spoke earlier. There's a poster for the book, so there's people out there trying to get you for a get you to root for a team that's not yours, and we fought for it. We think this group is our group, and they're the bad guys. And in the book, I really, I took a lot of that into consideration, and it gets to the point where eventually, I'm not going to give away the ending, but eventually you figure out, okay, everybody's been taking their shots at me. This guy ain't my guy. That lady ain't my lady. That ain't my team.
Mm-hmm.
And the question is always, how do you get to that other side? How do you get to a civilized world? And I don't know. I have my ideas, which are in the book.
Yeah.
But whether or not we ever get there, I don't know. It's rough.
Sal, could you move your camera down just a hair? It's kind of cutting the bottom of your head off there. I don't want it. There, that's perfect.
How's that?
That's beautiful, man. Beautiful.
You got both of my chins?
Yeah, I
you used to have 3. Yeah, you used to have 3. Down to 2. Without any shots or anything. I just,
Yeah, that's good, man. You need to get healthy.
No
during all
burritos
this
at 3 in the
nonsense.
morning anymore. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's so weird what you said, but it's so spot on. I mean, if somebody came here out of prison right now, I don't know if they'd recognize this place at all, because it's so team oriented. Like you just said, like the divide and conquer is working like a charm, because they got everybody thinking they're going for the Sox or the Cubs or the freaking Bills or the Redskins or whatever. I mean, it's all become such a game, and it's no more emblematic than when you look at the news or you look at any, they got the cult members out there for the red team or the blue team. And it's just like, don't they both realize they're both getting screwed here?
Yeah. Well, everybody thinks somebody's their guy, and again, in the book, you realize that, there's no virtue in kicking your own ass, for lack of a better term. You can't save anybody, as you learn in the book. You can't save people if you're drowning. If you're already drowning, who are you going to save? What are you going to take everybody down with you? It doesn't work that way. And in the story, there's a lot of there's just a lot of things that I have always observed, whether it was in the financial industry when I was a broker.
Mm-hmm.
I was a stockbroker in another life, and I did that with a very good friend of mine who at the time became a broker as well. And I did it because I refused to believe that anybody who went to college was any smarter than me. So I figured, okay, let me take my Series 7, passed it. Let me take my 63, passed it. Property, casualty, auto, life insurance, passed it. And, but I got very disillusioned about 1991 and just said, okay, can't do this anymore. And when I get to a point where I don't like a direction, I walk away from it. Mm-hmm. And just like with acting, I got to the point in the last TV show that I worked on, I said, that's it. I'm done. I'm out. Don't call me anymore. I'm not interested in auditioning, not interested in any of this. And I always go back to, I guess I'm going to have to rely on myself. And that's what writing is. It's therapeutic. And in this instance, I had this idea and was originally going to be I was going to write a script and then create a trailer for it and try and raise funds to do, like Kickstarter and Indiegogo's, going to raise the funds to try and do this. And then I looked at this, I'm thinking to myself, okay, I ain't raising $150 million. It's not going to work.
Yeah.
Once I win the lottery. And, I as I looked at the script, I wanted to get deeper. I wanted the characters, and I wanted it to be a little more elongated in the story. And you can't do that with a script. So I decided, okay, well, let me see if I can write this as a book. And it just started coming out and connecting characters and connecting events. And so, ooh, yeah, that'll be, yeah. And then you do edits and you're editing. I probably had close to 30 edits. before I got to the final version. And my mom never got a chance to see the final version. She had passed away on New Year's Day. And she kept reading, she was reading, she's like, again, you're changing it again? I said, yeah, I'm not comfortable with it yet. So here's another edit. And she's okay, where do I start? And I was like, oh, God. And then she had started getting sick, but it went through a lot of rewrites to get to the point because I wanted an answer, some kind of answer to be in there, a possibility of how you move forward. And honestly, John, I had no idea. When I started this in January of last year, I had also did a show called Bakers in the Burbs, which is an animated show about a African-American family that moves into the burbs. And they're like, wow, white people are really weird. There's like, there are people out there protesting about things they don't know anything about. The kids are all into like weird stuff, and they realize that everybody's got the same, they have their own problems in the Baker family, but they realize that we're all a little screwed up, And as I did that, and Hidden Powers was on the back end of that, and then I came back to Hidden Powers, Disclosure from Within, and then I found out that Spielberg had a movie coming out. And I found out about Spielberg's movie, I want to say, right after I finished the book, which had to be end of September or October of last year. And I'm thinking, well, that's weird. And then you start hearing more and more about Disclosure. And now it's popping up, and I don't care what blog, whether you go to Mother Jones or to Mark Levin, from one end of the spectrum to the other, there's discussion creeping in to areas that normally you would never see. And the same thing with just the main regular media, the podcasters all have their thing, and alternative media to the mainstream. But when you start seeing the focus on the mainstream, CNN, ABC, CBS, and all their little tentacle networks, like whatever MSNBC is called, I don't know how they call that thing now, but it's everywhere. And I'm thinking, wow, that's really weird. That the timing, it's the timing. So I'm thinking, well, I'm going to be releasing a book into the heat of this discussion that is now front and center with people who would have never, ever even given it a thought. And there's a lot of, again, there's people who think they know. Oh, that's all nonsense. Oh, it's AI. Look, man, I don't know. And I really would like to know. And when I wrote the book, it was from a perspective of, I want to know, so how am I going to find out? I'm going to write my own book about it. That's how I came about.
I love it, man. I was pulling this up while you were talking. I'll put it on the screen for everybody. It's from Fox. Non-human bodies allegedly recovered from crashed UFO. Documentary filmmaker claims. This is like, I think yesterday. It was from yesterday, and I was thinking, man, this is the stuff I would hear on. I loved Art Bell and Coast to Coast. This is the stuff I would hear on Art Bell when I was, in the 90s at 2:00 in the morning. And now this is on Fox News. I mean, come on, man.
Yeah, I loved Art Bell. It was because look, there's a lot of crackpots out there. There's a lot of liars out there. There's a lot of people who want it to be so true. They live off of hopeisms. I hope this is true. I'm going to make a story up because I want people to believe it. And it does that idea no good. When you're talking about stuff that didn't happen and making it up, it doesn't do that movement any good, because you're fueling the fire of people who are saying, "Oh, you're nuts. That's crazy." And I honestly, God, I don't know what, maybe 80-90% of it might be just hopeism. People just, lies, crackpots, lunatics, and then people who genuinely think they saw something and they talked about it. That's fine for me. But when you're making things up, you're not helping the situation when you make things up. Oh, this is real. I saw this. And who knows what the government's thoughts were. And that's why when I wrote all these what ifs into the book, it was, okay, What if, Project Saucer went for Project Saucer, Project Sign, Project Grudge, Project Blue Book. The Air Force ran it. The Air Force got it taken. Then Hynek comes along, at the end, and then runs it to the end. What if, Truman? What if 47 happened? What if that's true? Okay, what did that really look like? What did the conversations really look like between Truman and Forrestal? What happened to Forrestal? All right, now Truman's, by 50, Eisenhower comes in. Truman wanted to just go home and milk cows. He was like, look, I don't want to hear about any of this. I'm going back and I'm going to live my life. It's weird. There's video when you see back then, you'll see Truman walking down Pennsylvania Avenue all by himself, just shaking people's hands. We've become so uncivilized that can't even occur anymore. He was just walking, shaking, saying hi to people. Not that it wasn't a dangerous world, because even wasn't in 32 when Roosevelt, was it 32 or 20 when I forgot the Italian communists that tried to assassinate Roosevelt. Forgot what year that was. We lived in a dangerous world, but to be able to see Truman just walking down Pennsylvania Avenue, 47 and 48, saying hi, how's your day, shaking hands, you couldn't do that today if you wanted to. And there's a lot of those what ifs. This happened. What if Holloman really happened? Who was there with the Greys and the Nordics? Were there other species involved? Sure, probably, maybe. I don't know. Maybe not. But I kept it to the Greys and the Greada Treaty, which is the foundation for the story that set up the events that lead to where we are today as a what-if scenario. With the word originally it was called the Benevolence, which was going to be set up. The Benevolence was set up to help the world transition with new technology, but then it became the World Peace Organization, and they wanted to suppress it because they believed they needed to manage society, that we needed to be managed. We couldn't handle think back to the Matrix, which is weird because I went to high school with them, with the Wachowskis. They were young with me in my drama class. And there was a line, I wish I could remember, there was a great line about in the Matrix where they're talking about, we gave you Mr. Smith, I believe, one of the robots or whatever they were. And he says, we gave you an easy life and you couldn't handle it. You screwed it all up. So we reconfigured the programs. And that's something, in the book, it was the WPO that suppressed the technologies, suppressed everything. And they believed, people tell themselves things, justify it in their head, and then they follow that path. Whether it's right or wrong, they don't care. See, you can't question them because they already perceive themselves to be right, morally superior. You can't even have a discussion about them with that position that they have. And that's how I drew up the WPO, where they weren't really connected by an organization. They were connected loosely through an ideology that they were a superior intellect and we're just too stupid to handle what they have been given through the Greada Treaty. That we're too stupid to handle that technology and move forward. And they will let us know when we can handle it. And it all comes crashing down, and then we go from there.
Excuse me, I was taking a drink of water there so I could get my voice back. Yeah, I wanted to get into Forrestal a little bit because he's one of those names that I've heard probably a lot of people have, but so much of our history has just been sort of condensed into these bizarre footnotes. And then in 2-3 years time, they've forgotten about it. I mean, everybody forgot about Ruby Ridge and Waco and Oklahoma City, all this mess, to most people in 2026 is like, I don't know, whatever, it's like, it's a big kind of shrug. I don't know what happened. Like the JFK thing. I don't know what happened. Nobody even cares anymore. But I think he's one of those integral people that is kind of the transition between like that World War II pre-Eisenhower, kind of into Eisenhower and on into Kennedy, and it's a pretty integral transition piece there. That again, it's one of those things we're never going to know because most of the people are dead. But it's another kind of whodunit. It's like we're all watching Clue again. But what the flip happened to James Forrestal?
It's interesting. When I was doing my researching, I didn't really. I got thrown out of, I think, 3 out of 5 high schools I went to because I couldn't get interested. But I was interested in knowing things, and history was one of them. And going, even back to the Rome before the Roman Empire. Just again, it's like nothing changes but time. We're still in the same predicaments we've been in since the caveman times. It's like, what progress? Where's the progress other than we live in nicer huts and we eat better food, and we're still fighting the same fights? And so with Forrestal, I found it interesting because he came from a very well-to-do family. He was a banker, ran the newspapers, and very intelligent, and moved his way up the ranks in the Navy. And then all of a sudden, 47 happens, and now he's a bad guy. So he's been great all his life until then. And then, and you could see even then how the media was spinning his ills, what the media was retelling to people. So the media is marketing a narrative, an idea, and a concept to people. The concept is he's under duress, he's tired, he's exhausted. And the family was saying there's nothing, he's not drinking, there's nothing wrong with him. Those were the stories that were being put out. We don't know if that's true or if that was being put out by people who wanted other people to see him a certain way so they could marginalize him. So that they can market an idea and marginalize you like that. And my idea again was, okay, what if he wasn't like the family said? And that's how I wrote it. What if he wasn't? What if he was? They had to say, look, he wants to tell the world, he wants to tell the American citizens that Roswell was real, that these saucers, there's other events we don't know about. We can't tell you. And Truman, the way I wrote Truman's pieces were, look, you got the Russians testing the A thing over there in Kazakhstan. Got communists want to take over Italy in the elections of 47, 48. They want to annihilate Italy. I can't tell the American public after World War II, we got little green men running around with spaceships that we can't do anything about. I can't tell them that. Mm-hmm. So that was how I wrote that the setup for Truman to Forrestal. And then what happened to Forrestal, which was was it May 22nd? We're almost 40, was it 49, I think? So almost, 70 something years to the day where he was up on the 16th floor and miraculously some window opened up for him to fall out of.
Of course.
And then the report was he had committed suicide. That was the report. That was the story. I don't know if that's true, because again, you don't know what to believe. You don't know who to believe. And, if you judge everything on human nature, you tend to be pretty negative about everything because human nature, you're just negative about it. So I wrote it in a manner that was, okay, what if it was done? And then we move on to Eisenhower. And then he discovers that there's like an entire organization doing their own thing underneath me. And nobody wants to answer to it. And that's how I wrote it. There's always this underlying group of people who are in the shadows, who are hidden, who, presidents need to know. He's in, he's out. We're going to be here forever. And all the money that was, remember in the movie Contact? You saw Contact, right?
Yeah.
Remember in the movies, and the billionaire says, well, why build one when you can build two? When they were talking about the two locations that Jodie Foster was going to go into traverse time. And well, it was all this money that is being spent and being lost goes into programs, and then that program gets hidden under a shell, under an LLC, under a shell over here, under another shell here, and then the funds get moved. It's all very possible, you know. So I wrote it that way. All it was is it's a bunch of what ifs, and connected them to make a pretty cool story.
And it's weird
but I
to
questioned
me
that.
because Forrestal was also very against Israel becoming its own nation over there.
Mm-hmm.
And then Forrestal was also a mentor to JFK, which would kind of come into play in a few years after that. I mean, it's such a weird, like, what the?
It seems like right after World War II, this stuff became very, very embedded in the halls of government here. And to think that we're the only country, I mean, that's really in the book too. It's not just us, you know. There are other countries that, the way I wrote it, know these things exist. And it was the fear of mutual destruction that keeps us from using the technologies that we quietly have on each other. So, you know, it's not like we're the chosen country. You know, we're not the chosen one. There were I wrote it where there's other nations. You know, you have the Russians, because they were they were at the forefront of technology. The Chinese really didn't come into play technologically wise until Kissinger opened the door for them in, what was it, 72, 73. The Chinese were, you know, they weren't a technologically savvy country until they were brought into the fold when Kissinger opened the door for them. But the Chinese, I don't know if they had any access, or if they would even know back then what they were looking at technologically wise. You know, there's a saying, if you had a Tesla in 1525, nobody would know what the hell to do with it.
Yeah.
You know, if you had anything, you had a car, if you had a toilet seat, they look at it and not know what it is. So I wrote, when I wrote the story, I wrote it that there's other countries that knew about this, that it had been suppressed, and that when disclosure finally happens in the book, you know, the question is, will we finally believe it? Will we turn to each other or on each other, just like we do today? Do we, you know, here's your answer, here it is. No, that's not the answer. Yes, that is the answer. And people can't agree. So we have to get through that part to get to the next part. We have to get through to the point. You know, I always say we don't have a real point of reference. Faith is one thing, but people need solid truth, and we don't have a point of reference of truth other than have faith in something. And I think if the truth, remember War of the Worlds, 51, the original one in 51. He's going to show the world that they're real, and all the electricity across the planet is cut off except hospitals, police departments, and emergency places. That was a defining moment. That is a point of reference, because the people look at it and go, okay, well, I guess this is true. How we get to that point in our real lives, I don't know. I wrote about it. You know, it's in my book. If it ever happens that way, I guess I could call that a hopeism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love your point about time, because I say the same thing. I often say nothing changes but the date, because I feel like, you know, throughout, that's kind of it. Like, all right, it's 2026. Is it that different than 2024? No. I mean, but with the Forrestal thing, when I first heard about this, I was like, man, that sounds a heck of a lot like Frank Olson, which was the guy killed. I just looked it up. It was in 1953. And it was a similar scenario where he was doing fine, family man, everything's good. He goes on a little trip. Next thing you know, he falls out a window. Wasn't it? You know, it's like,
what are the odds?
And it's you know, Forrestal was the precursor to that. And I always, when you look at all these different events, because I can't even classify anything as real anymore. When I hear something new happens, I'm like, I don't know, I wasn't there. I can't tell you if it really happened or not. But when I look at these different events, there was almost always a windup. There's almost always like a dry run where you had like World Trade Center bombing one, and then you had the 9/11. You had the Oklahoma City dry run, then you had the real thing. It's always a dry run. So it's like, I think they sort of figure the proverbial they kind of figure out the op, and then they're like, okay, the slaves didn't pick up on this. Let's run the same play again. You know, it's like in baseball or basketball, they're gonna keep running the pick and roll until you stop.
Yeah, they're running the program. They're just running the program. And the question is, do these things happen because they're planned, or is it the law of unintended consequences that pinball them from one bumper to another to have to counter the bad move before that? Yeah. These are things and like you had said earlier, people don't care because it's so daunting in your life. I mean, if you got kids, you got bills, you got sick family members, holy cow, I mean, you got a lot to deal with. So trying to swim yourself through the sewage of nonsense that you're being marketed daily, it's daunting for people. I get it. It's daunting for me. It's depressing. It's why you try to find a little happiness somewhere, even if it's just watching Bed Knobs and Broomsticks for the 15th time in your week, whatever. Just something to cheer you up, because it gets depressing, and everybody thinks they have the answers, but a lot of people just parrot what they hear. My guy said this. My God, this lady, she's great. I love her. She said, okay, but how does she know? They're just people parrot what people they believe are their guy, their team. Yeah. Not necessarily so.
That's so true, man. So true. When you mentioned, and I hate to keep coming back to this, but I swear, I think it speaks so much, but the Forrestal thing again, like, he was a decent guy. Everybody loved him. And then immediately the media pivoted on that. Oh, he's a bad guy. He's running out on his wife. He's drinking. He's out on the town. And I swear, man, you see the same thing 8 days a week and twice on Sunday today. And I've seen it my whole life where, celebrity, whoever it is, oh, look, he's the greatest thing in the world. And then the next thing you know, well, he's really got a drug problem. He's really a gay, it's all this BS until you find out, like, you don't know a flipping thing. It's all just presentation of whoever you think this guy or girl is. It's ridiculous.
You're being marketed ideas there, and the media is fed. And whether you're, if you're a podcaster or a reporter or whatever, you're being fed ideas. And I'm always about questions. Okay, ask questions. Why wouldn't you ask a question? That sounds kind of weird. But then if the person in the media is getting the information from a person they perceive to be, it's my guy. He's like, or we're like-minded. And this will make that guy look bad because I think that guy's a jerk. Mm-hmm. And that guy could be the greatest guy in the world. And now you're trashing this guy because you're being fed a manipulation. You're being manipulated through a narrative that they want you to tell other people. So other people will go, oh, yeah, that guy's crazy. Nobody, you don't know. You just don't know. And people, when you go to, you see some of these groups, I do a lot of marketing in the groups, and you see, I don't really comment because I don't have all day to sit there and argue with people on social media. It's just as stupid as it was. Remember with AOL groups?
Yeah.
And then you had GeoCities and all these other things in the mid-90s where people were BBSs, people are arguing and fighting with each other. But for what? What if you're such a tough guy, go meet that person in person and take each other on. But to sit there behind a computer and take pot shots at people, you have no idea.
Yeah.
And that's what we call them, keyboard warriors. And they're all so sure of everything. They have all the answers to they know everything. And then, there's certain people I have in my mind that I remember through the years that I remember. And they said this, they are so far wrong, so far off. Proven completely wrong. And yet they're still babbling incessantly in these groups. It's insane. So you're listening to people who are just telling you what they want to be, not truly what it is. It's what they want it to be. And they think they know. And a lot of that is in the book too. That's the whole confusion factor in the story is, and when you play the trailer with Sarah, she goes, I understand. You don't know what to believe, and that comes post disclosure. But that's why you can't really become a cheerleader or a rah-rah for anybody. Everybody's got to, you got to look at it. Everything has been so bastardized. There's not anything left that isn't corrupt. So you got to question everything. I don't care if it's the Baptist church, the Catholic church, the Chinese government, the Australian football team, whatever. Everything needs to be questioned because somebody's always got an agenda.
Mm-hmm. I'll put this one on the screen because I thought it was pretty apropos for what we're talking about here. It's from 2018, but it kind of shows exactly what we're talking about. It says Smallville star confesses, she sold children to Rothschilds and Clintons. And again, like, we don't know if this is legitimate. We don't know if it's not. But again, I mean, this is a alleged star or whatever that even means anymore from the show Smallville. And I guarantee you, they did a whole smear campaign to make this girl look like a complete piece of trash. Whether or not any of that's legit, illegit, we don't even know. But I mean, you know how it works. So if they step out of line, and I mean, we saw this with the COVID mess. We saw this with every time there's an election. Oh, so and so's for this candidate. Well, we don't like them anymore. It's hilarious, man. It's hilarious.
There's partial truths. A lot of things are left out to get somebody to think a certain way. And it's like, for the love of, can we just get to the truth?
Yeah.
Can somebody just tell the truth? Why do you think it has to be a side? It should be about you, your life, your family, and to bastardize and belittle someone else without knowing anything. I mean, that's horrible. It's a horrible person that does that without knowing what's real.
It's a weird term that I've looked into and often mentioned on this show. It's called a parasocial relationship. It's basically where the average person looks at a sports star, a film star, whatever, and they sort of believe they have a legitimate relationship with him. Because just like you said, it's like, oh, that's my guy. Oh, that's Tony Danza from Who's the Boss. That's Andy Griffith. Oh, that's my guy. I'm like, that person as the character. You're not hanging out with Tony. You don't know what the flip he's doing behind the scenes. He might be a complete a-hole. We don't know. I mean, we don't.
On my Facebook page, you pull up my Facebook page if you can for a second there.
Okay.
There's one of the things that I've lived my life by, and it is be enamored with no one. And stop buying in the marketed versions of people you think you know. It's one thing to admire a person's accomplishments. Accomplishments are, amazing, but it doesn't mean you know that person. They could be the most wonderful person in the world, or they could be just the most vile human being you'd ever meet. You have no idea. All you know is what you're marketed. And we tend to fall into these traps where we think, oh yeah, that's my guy. He's great. And then you read about him 4 years later, and then you got to wonder, okay, is that true or is it false? You don't know. Who knows? So wrapping your heart around somebody you don't know is kind of weird for me.
Yeah.
I admire the achievement, the accomplishment. That's great, wonderful. But I don't know if I don't know you from Adam. So to coin an old term.
Yeah. I mean, that was so wild. When I was a kid, it was sort of waning even when I was a kid, but it was like you looked up to your dad, you looked up to your granddad, I mean, that's how it was in my family anyway. So I remember oftentimes in school, it'd be like, who's your hero? And everybody'd want to mention like, oh, Michael Jordan or so-and-so. I'm like, I don't flip a note. He might be a jerk. I mean, I know my dad, he's in the next room. He's a pretty good guy.
So,
but they've pushed that divide where you've got to idolize these demigods, if you will.
Yeah, I admire their achievements. I admire their accomplishments. And in the book, Sarah goes through these discoveries in the book, thanks to Victoria, and it opens her eyes, and it gives her the backbone that she needs to take everything forward in the book. And it falls on her shoulders, where all she wanted to do, she doesn't believe anything she's being given in the book, in the story early on with Victoria. And then as Victoria starts leaking the proof, she starts believing it, and she said, okay, well, and she's able to connect the dots with her sources, and she uses the dark web, and she's able to weed out, who the bad players are on the dark web. And, it's a lot of the technology is in there. And it was interesting. My publisher, my goal was with the book was, once I was finished, I was going to query a bunch of agents, try and get a literary agent. And my goal was by the end of January of this year, if I didn't find a literary agent, I was going to self-publish. So I get an email from a publisher, and she had said, I saw this trailer, and I'm interested in the story. I'm going to send you an NDA, can you send me the first 30 pages? I said, yeah, sure, okay. Thinking, what can it hurt? So I send it to her, and she says, this is really good. Can you send me the rest? So I sent her the rest. And then my mom got really sick. So right around that time, coming into Christmas, going into New Year's, I was going back and forth with her as much as I could, because I was tending to my mom, and the whole family was trying to take care of things. And she said, look, this is such a great story. She said, it was one of these books I got to read again. She said, there was just she said, there's so much in here, and it covers a long span of time. It really does. It covers over, it quick. It starts, gets you up to date to here, and then goes forward from here. But it was really, she had read it a couple times, because she really wanted to understand not only the beginning, but the technology that Sarah was using in conjunction with the podcasters, the alternative media, and the internet. Because the way I wrote it out, the algorithms were going to knock everything down. So as the truth was coming out, the algorithms are running counter stories to that, to create the confusion. And eventually an event happens where people realize, okay, they're all lying, this girl's right. And we come to terms and grips with disclosure. We finally stop fighting amongst ourselves like we do today, fighting amongst ourselves over what we think is the truth. And we finally realize, okay, this is the truth. And we're able to handle it after we get through that initial. And I brought the religious aspects too, because as I said, my thoughts were the real. I don't care what religion it is. People are going to have questions for their religious leaders once disclosure is proven to be true. And as we're getting to that point of truth. And I thought, well, these are going to be interesting discussions that people will have with their leaders. You're going to have people you're going to have religious people who are saying, man, we should have done what we should have done. Then you're going to have those who say, we didn't know. Then you're going to have people who side with this one and side with this one, just like we have today. It's all the same thing in that what if scenario. And it's the same thing early on, especially in Holloman, where, if this alien meeting happened with Eisenhower, where, he's got all these people, these, you've got military, industrial, academicians, and all in this meeting to meet with these aliens. And then I'm thinking to myself, wow, these discussions, if this stuff happened, there had to be some deep discussions. Because you could not only have a lot of egos, you got a lot of people are looking and saying, oh, well, this will give us the power that we want. And you got people who are looking at it within that group of people saying, power can be kind of dangerous, which goes back to Eisenhower's statement about the military-industrial complex and how it got formed. So within there, that's how it gets formed. Basically, WPO is on the outside. Well, we do have a military industrial complex here. We don't have a monopoly on it because other countries have that as well. So it's all drawn into all of that, into the story. And I think I laid it out pretty well in the trailer when I did the trailer. I think the trailer really lays out the story. The first trailer was a little more alien intensive. The second one was more conspiracy, government, and our responses and how we respond to get to a peaceful, civilized world.
Yeah. It's kind of funny. I'm a big fan of horror movies and sci-fi movies and stuff like that. And it's kind of like nobody paid attention to the fucking movies. It's like you had like Silent Running, Blade Runner, Longest Run, drama, all these classic, in my opinion anyway, movies. And here we are in 2026 and people are like, oh yeah, AI is our friend. It's going to be great. Let's build a freaking a database over here next to the mall. And we're all going to be just fine. I mean, forget about the obvious one like Terminator. I mean, I just don't even know what it's going to take anymore, man. I'm excited about your book, and I'm like, at the same time, I was like, I don't even know what would wake people up at this point.
Yeah, and again, exactly what's going to wake them up, and who's going to? The scary part is who's going to wake them up. Are you going to wake them up so they're the pawns? One of the book covers that where I'm working with a guy who's creating the book cover. One of the book covers is the chess pieces on strings, and the king is toppled over for checkmate, and the chess pieces are on puppet strings, symbolizing the people, and the king's checkmate. The pawns are all gone; they were all wiped out, meaning us, because. There's a lot of symbolism when you create. You can get as deep as you want with a book cover, as you can get as symbolic as you want with a book cover, and I won't know until I see the book cover that I think works. So I've got ideas, and he's, I gave him references and ideas, and he's created a few. I'm not there yet. I'm hoping by the end of next week we'll finally have the book cover finalized.
Absolutely. When is the book slated to come out?
I'm hoping July or August. Right around July or August. I'm just, once the book cover is done, then it's a matter of the publisher getting everything done and getting it up on Amazon and the other, wherever else it goes. That's the stuff I'm not too familiar with, but I've done a lot of research on it just to have a basic knowledge of it. But I'm thinking July or August.
Yeah. Well, I got to ask you this one before we go, because I feel like it's everybody in the media podcast sphere, whatever you want to call it now. It's all sort of touting it's all going to be a big hoax. They're all saying, oh, this disclosure thing's a big distraction from this other thing, which is a distraction from that other thing. And, keep on going down like the Russian dolls. You just keep pulling another doll head out here. And then I hear all this other mess where it's like, it's all demonic. It's all, whatever it is, it's demonic. And I'm like, again, I have to say, what the flip is going on? Because I'm like you, man. I'm like, I don't know. I have no flipping idea if anything's legit.
I don't have any idea. Yeah, I don't have any idea. And I don't ever solidify an opinion based on something I don't know. A lot of people believe what they believe, and that's cool. That's their right. Whatever. It makes for great conversation. That's your thought. Cool. I laugh a lot because, in Chicago, we don't put ketchup on our hot dogs. You know what I mean? The way we do our hot dogs here, it's the way we do our hot dogs. If you put ketchup on your hot dog, I'm not going to hate you. You just put ketchup on your hot dog. Same thing with beliefs. If that's what you believe, that's cool. Well, whatever, man. I don't. But it doesn't mean I'm going to hate you for it either, And until it's proven right or wrong, I'm just not interested in going in any direction to base a path. There's a path you want to follow because you want it to be the path you need, that you believe to be the right path for your life. And I'm not going to base that a bunch of what ifs, maybes, and possibilities that I don't definitely know for sure. We don't know much for sure. So we're forever wandering out there hoping we're on the right path. But I would never, ever just say something I don't know. This is what I believe.
That's
if
it,
I
yeah.
don't know it. Yeah. And if you can run, if you want to run that trailer.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me try to cue this
you
up
know,
real
you-
quick, and we'll do that. Let me see here. I know. On your screen, so you won't see it, but it'll be
Okay.
there. All right, we're playing it now, ladies and gentlemen. So check out the trailer here for this, and we'll talk to Sal for a second after this.
For 70 years, they called us paranoid, told us to trust the system, trust the science, trust our leaders, while they buried the truth. Until investigative journalist Sarah Moore uncovered what they never wanted us to see. On October 17th, 2026, whistleblower Victoria Sterling stepped forward and proved every conspiracy was real. Every single bit of it. The suppressed cures, the hidden energy technologies, the silenced inventors, the cures for diseases, the answers to our greatest problems. All buried because those in control believed we needed to be managed. In 1954, 2 alien species arrived. One offered partnership, the other offered power. Power that elites use to treat humanity like property. $47 trillion missing. 70 years of lies, control, and engineered suffering finally exposed. They say the truth will set us free. Will it? The world erupted. People were terrified, turning to each other and on each other. Economies imploded. Institutions crumbled. And then, even with undeniable proof, millions still refuse to believe it. Decades of conditioning didn't just blind people. It made them loyal to the very powers that owned them. They defended their cages and their owners because they believed their cages were freedom. What happens when we learn our entire lives were manufactured? When the heroes we trusted betrayed us? When those who were supposed to serve us served themselves? When we finally realized that wars, diseases, and famines were engineered by those who profited from it all? Can we survive the truth if we were never meant to know about it?
Some of you are ready to fight. Some think we're the enemy. Some no longer know what to believe. I understand.
For 70 years, we were conditioned to mistake slavery for freedom. But together, we will make sure that never happens again and build a bridge to a better way of life with liberty, justice, and freedom for all. When all the conspiracies become reality, will the truth really set us free? Hidden Powers, a new book by Sal Amato.
Man, I like it.
Thank you.
That sounds amazing, man.
Yeah, it sums it up. It really sums the story from the beginning to the end in the period of time that it goes through.
I like that beginning part. It kind of reminds me of the movie the Parallax View, where there's a fake assassination or a contrived assassination that goes awry. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. I wanted to summarize it. Like I said, originally it was done as what they would call a sizzle reel to to get investors and interested. And I decided, well, if I'm going to write it as a book, I might as well use it as a promo for the book. So that's what I did. The other trailer too. The other one was the first one was done in the end of October, and then this one was done, I think, the end of December.
Mm-hmm. I like it, man. I like it.
Thank you.
Well, Sal, could you tell everybody where the best place to go to find this? I know it's not out yet, but it should be in Amazon pretty soon.
Yeah, Amazon will have the book. Also on my website, salamato.com. Once it's ready, it'll be available there as well. It'll be available as a paperback, hardcover, ebook, and audiobook.
Man, that sounds great. Well, thank you so much for being with us. If you'll stick around for a minute, excuse me, I'm getting tongue tied here, but I'll try to talk to you off there if that works for you. All right.
Yep. All
right, folks. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. Sorry about the voice. I apologize again. Please go to anomicage.com where you can find all things me, including Sal Amato's links, salamato.com, where you can find the trailers for his upcoming book, as well as where to find it also. So you can find all that there at anomicage.com. As I always say, you can't do everything, but you can do something. Please try to get out there, do your part, make a difference, and I'll be seeing you sooner than later in the Anomic Age.
Thank you for listening to The Anomic Age, a John Age project. For past shows, further info, and to comment, go to anomicage.com. That's ANOMICAGE.com. Till next time, thank you for listening to The Anomic Age.